For the second time, my parents didn't show up for my daughter's birthday. No excuse. No sorry. Just silence, until my mom texted a week later. My name is Rachel, and my daughter turned 8 last Saturday. She saved the biggest slice of her homemade birthday cake for her grandma and grandpa, who never showed up. Instead, my mom posted pictures of wine glasses and grapevines from a vineyard in Napa, captioning it, "Finally getting some me time." That was on the exact day of my daughter's birthday. And then a week later my mom had the audacity to text me, "Hey, can you cover $3,500 for your sister's baby shower?" That was the moment something in me snapped. My name is Rachel. My daughter turned 8 last Saturday. She picked out her own dress weeks in advance. Pink, sparkly, with a little unicorn stitched over the heart. She wanted to wear it for her birthday picnic at the park. Her idea. I even helped pack the sandwiches. Told me to get blue balloons because pink is for the dress, blue is for the sky. She was so excited. And more than anything she kept saying, maybe this year Grandma and Grandpa would come. They didn't. They didn't even send a card, not a text, not even a lazy happy birthday on Facebook. Instead, my mom posted pictures of wine glasses and grapevines. They were in Napa at some vineyard. Her caption was something like, "Finally getting some me time." That was on the exact day of my daughter's birthday. Same time we were lighting candles on a cake she helped bake. Vanilla with strawberry frosting. She saved the biggest slice for them. When they didn't show, she kept the slice in the fridge and said maybe they were coming the next day. They weren't. The sad thing is she didn't cry. She didn't even ask where they were. She just sat down on the floor and quietly played with the toy vet kit her godmother gave her. She gave the stuffed dog a checkup, then put him to bed using a paper towel as a blanket. You know what it's like to watch your kid pretend she's not heartbroken? To see her go into her little imagination world because it hurts less there? That was the moment something snapped inside me. It wasn't just this one birthday. It was the 5th, the 6th, the 7th. It was all the times they treated my daughter like a side character. Ever since my sister got pregnant, it's like she and her unborn child replaced us. And that would be one thing if they just ignored us. I could deal with that. But they used me for years. They used the benefits I got from the military after my husband died. Called it family money. Said we should all enjoy it together, that my husband would have wanted that. I didn't know enjoying it together meant sending them to Europe, while I stayed home working double shifts. Once my mom took my daughter's savings jar, said she needed it for gas, never paid it back. And I still let them come around. I still invited them, still gave them chances. And then a week after the birthday they didn't even acknowledge. My mom sent a text. No intro, no explanation. "Hey, can you cover $3,500 for your sister's baby shower? We want to rent out the garden venue, balloon wall, desserts, gift baskets for guests. Should be super cute." That was it. "No, sorry, we missed the party." "No, how's your daughter?" Just another request. Another take. I stared at the message for a long time. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. For once I didn't try to rationalize it. I didn't come up with a dozen excuses in their defense. I just put my phone down and didn't reply. Not that day, not the next. Not even when she texted again saying, "Are you ignoring me? We really need to book this place before someone else does." I blocked her. 2 mornings later I heard banging at the front door. I thought it was the neighbor at first. Then I looked through the peephole and saw them. My mom in her gym clothes, hair a mess. My dad wearing one of the shirts I bought him last Christmas. Both of them yelling my name. My daughter was still asleep. I didn't open the door. They were pounding and crying and saying things loud enough for the entire street to hear. At one point my mom screamed something about how I was tearing the family apart, that I was just like my father's side. Which makes no sense because my dad was standing right next to her. And that's when it hit me. They weren't here because they missed me. They weren't even here because they missed her, their granddaughter. They were here because the free ride was gone. And it scared them. I didn't say a word, just watched through the peephole for a few more seconds, then walked away. This time I wasn't going to be the bigger person because being the bigger person got me nothing but a sad little girl in a sparkly dress, standing by the door with a balloon in her hand, waiting on people who were never going to show up. After they stood outside yelling for nearly 20 minutes, they left. I watched them from the upstairs window walking back to their car. My mom was talking fast, waving her hands around. My dad didn't say anything, just climbed into the passenger seat and stared ahead like he was already halfway home. That silence after they drove off, it felt like a weight lifted off my chest. But of course that didn't last. The next morning I got an email from my mom. The subject line was, "We need to talk." It started with her telling me how disappointed she was in me, that I was being cold, selfish, and ungrateful. That family supports each other, and she just couldn't believe I was acting like this over something so small. She said I was overreacting because they missed one birthday. Try 3. And then at the very bottom of the email she added, "If you change your mind about the baby shower, let us know. We'll need your help with setup too." No mention of my daughter. Not one sentence. It was like she didn't exist. And the worst part is this wasn't new. It had started the moment my sister announced she was pregnant. Now I love my sister. I really do. But the second she showed up at my parents' house with a sonogram and tears in her eyes, everything changed. She was 26, had no job, living with her boyfriend, a 20-year-old who worked at a vape shop and spent most of his free time streaming video games. But to my parents she was a saint, a miracle, the only one who could carry on the family name. They started planning her baby shower before her second trimester. Meanwhile my daughter, the one who lost her dad before she could speak a full sentence, was invisible. They stopped calling her on holidays, stopped showing up to her school plays, stopped sending gifts. But every time my sister needed something, baby clothes, rent, new tires, guess who they called? Me. Because I was the one with military benefits. I was the one who owed it to the family. My mom literally told me once that I wouldn't even have that money if my husband hadn't died. So sharing it is the least you could do. I nearly threw up when she said that, but I still sent money. That's how far gone I was until the birthday. After the email I didn't respond. I blocked her there too. Then came the next wave. My sister texted me from a new number pretending to just check in. But 5 messages in, she asked if I'd had a chance to look at the group board for the shower decorations. I told her I wasn't going, that I wasn't sending money, that I needed space. She left me on read for a day. Then she messaged back accusing me of making everything about myself and punishing her baby for our mom's mistakes. I didn't respond to that either. A few days later her boyfriend, the 20-year-old with the vape job, texted me too. Said he needed help. Said he didn't think raising a kid would be this hard. That my sister was really stressed and that maybe I could talk to her. That was the first time I let myself laugh in days. A real bitter, tired laugh. Because these people didn't want to fix anything. They just wanted me to keep the machine running. But the truth was I was done. No more handouts. No more bending over backward for people who couldn't remember my daughter's name half the time. I told them I was out completely. That I'd been carrying a family on my back for years and now I was putting it down. That's when the silence started. For a few days nothing. No texts, no emails, no surprise visits. I thought maybe they got the message. But then something happened that made it clear they weren't done with me. Not even close. Because the next person to show up at my door wasn't my parents. It was someone else. Someone I hadn't seen in 5 years. And she wasn't just visiting. She had a plan. The knock came early. Too early. I remember checking the clock because my daughter was still in her pajamas and I was halfway through reheating coffee. 8:15 a.m. Nobody ever knocks at that time unless something's wrong. When I opened the door I didn't recognize her at first. She looked thinner, older, sunburned, like someone who'd driven all night and didn't plan on stopping. Then she took her sunglasses off and I saw her eyes. Nina. My daughter's godmother. My husband's best friend since middle school. The person who disappeared from my life after the funeral without an explanation. The one person I never thought I'd see standing on my porch again. She didn't ask if she could come in. She just stepped inside and dropped a duffel bag by the door like she'd already decided she was staying. My daughter came around the corner and froze. Then she ran straight into Nina's arms. That alone should have told me something was coming. We sat at the kitchen table while my daughter colored. Nina didn't waste time pretending this was a casual visit. She leaned forward and told me she'd been watching everything from a distance. The Facebook posts, the comments, the way my mom suddenly started talking about protecting the family from toxic influences. Apparently, I was the toxic influence. My mom had been telling people I was unstable, that I was struggling, that I was cutting people off for no reason. She even hinted that my daughter wasn't safe around me when I got like this. Nina said she'd seen it all because someone shared a post in a private group. Someone I didn't even know. I felt sick. Not angry, just sick. Then Nina said there was something else, something worse. She'd been talking to one of the guys from my husband's unit, someone she stayed in touch with over the years. He mentioned a letter my husband wrote right before his last deployment ended. A personal one, not part of the official paperwork. That letter was supposed to be mailed to me, but it never was. Instead, it was sent to my parents' address, the one he had listed years earlier when we were still young and thought family meant safety. Nina said she called my mom pretending to be someone else. Asked about it. My mom paused, then said she might have it somewhere, then hung up. I didn't tell Nina what I was thinking. I didn't want to say it out loud yet, but I already knew. They kept it. While my daughter sat on the floor lining up crayons, I grabbed my keys and left. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I still had a spare key to my parents' house. My mom always said changing the locks was unnecessary because we trust each other. Funny how trust only went one way. The house was empty, quiet, smelled like lemon cleaner and air freshener. Everything exactly where it always was. I went straight to the hallway closet, the one my dad used for important things. I didn't even have to search. Top shelf, black folder, same as always. The envelope was there, yellowed, bent at one corner. My name written in my husband's handwriting, still sealed. I stood there for a long time holding it. Long enough to realize they'd had this for 5 years. 5 years where they watched me grieve, struggle, doubt myself, and they said nothing. I locked the house and left. I didn't open the letter until I got home. Nina sat with me on the couch while my daughter played in her room. I opened it slowly like it might fall apart in my hands. Inside was the letter and another page folded behind it. The letter was simple. He told me he loved me, that he trusted me, that he knew things would be hard. The second page wasn't emotional. It was practical. A list. Things he wanted for our daughter. Boundaries he hoped I'd keep. Warnings he clearly thought through long before anyone else did. He wrote that some people confuse family with entitlement. That love isn't measured by money. That if anyone ever made our daughter feel like an inconvenience, I should walk away without guilt. There was one line I couldn't stop rereading. If they forget her, let them go. Do not teach her to beg for love. I didn't cry. I felt calm in a way I hadn't felt in years. That night after my daughter went to sleep, Nina told me something else. She said she'd been thinking about moving back east, but hadn't decided where. She said she'd help us if we ever wanted to start over somewhere else, somewhere far. I looked around my apartment, the same walls, the same furniture, the same weight pressing down every time my phone buzzed. And for the first time, the idea of leaving didn't scare me. Felt like relief. But before I could go anywhere, there were a few things I needed to stop. A few people who needed to realize the support they'd been living on was gone. And they were not going to take that quietly. Not at all. The first thing I did was shut off the money. Every auto transfer, every shared account, every link to my name gone. My sister had been getting monthly help from me since she moved in with that guy who couldn't even legally drink yet. I never questioned it much. It started small: groceries, a one-time rent payment, baby clothes. Then somehow I was covering half her life while she posted bump selfies with captions like #blessed and #stress-free. I didn't announce anything. I just stopped. No texts, no explanations, just silence. 3 days later, I got a string of messages from her. First was, "Hey sis, my card isn't working." Then, "Did the transfer not go through?" Followed by, "Can you fix this? We're literally about to lose power." I didn't reply. The day after that, her boyfriend called me. I didn't even know he had my number. He said he was doing his best, that he never signed up for this level of pressure, then asked me, and I quote, "Can you just hold things down a little longer while we get our footing?" This kid once told me that owning a blender made him feel like an adult. I hung up. A week went by and things got quiet again. That's how I knew they were planning something. Sure enough, my mom broke the silence. This time through a friend, Mrs. Barker, a woman from church, someone I hadn't spoken to in years, messaged me out of nowhere. She said my mom was deeply hurt and didn't know how to reach me and felt abandoned by both her daughters. I didn't take the bait. Instead, I did something I probably should have done a long time ago. I told the truth to everyone. I made one single post, just one. No anger, no swearing, no finger pointing. I wrote, "Some of you know my daughter just turned 8. Some of you know her dad died serving this country. What most of you don't know is that her grandparents missed her birthday, that they've used her survivor benefits for vacations and parties, that they've made me feel guilty for not paying for a baby shower while ignoring the child standing right in front of them. I'm done pretending. If that makes me toxic, so be it." That post didn't explode, but it did spread. People started remembering things. The cousin who loaned my mom money last year and never heard back. The neighbor who once drove my sister to a job interview and later found out it was a hair appointment. The old friend who stopped coming around because my mom said she was bad energy. People reached out quietly, just enough to say, "I believe you." But the real chaos started when my dad, the one who barely speaks unless football is on, showed up at my door alone. He stood there holding a folded piece of paper, said he needed to explain something. I let him in. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe pity. He sat down and told me my mom had read the letter from my husband the day it arrived. She'd cried, then hid it because, and I quote, "It felt like he was judging her." That paper in his hand, it was a list of all the things they'd spent the benefit money on. A spreadsheet, cruises, a new fridge, my sister's rent, a European river tour called Wine and Castles. He said he thought I deserved to know. I asked him why he never stopped her. He said he didn't want to lose her. That's when I told him, "But you lost me anyway." He didn't cry, just nodded and left. That same night I started researching cities. Nina sat with me. She told me she knew a place. Quiet, beautiful, affordable. No family within 600 miles. I didn't hesitate. 2 weeks later the lease was signed. We had a move date. My daughter thought it was an adventure. She started calling it the escape. Nina taught her how to pack boxes like a pro. We spent every night laughing and sorting, and for the first time in years the house felt warm again. But the day before we left, I got a text from my mom. Just one sentence. "You have no idea what you've done." She was wrong though. I knew exactly what I'd done. I'd set myself and my daughter free. But I wasn't finished yet. There was one final truth that needed to be said, and I was going to say it to their faces. I didn't tell Nina where I was going that morning. She was making pancakes with my daughter when I slipped out. I left a note on the counter just in case, not because I was worried, but because Nina was the one person who had earned the truth from me. The full truth. I drove across town with no music playing. Just the sound of my thoughts, loud and clear for once. I parked a few houses down so they wouldn't see me coming. I didn't want them to have a second to prepare. My mom opened the door in her robe, hair pinned up, coffee in hand, phone tucked between her shoulder and ear. She hung up without saying goodbye to whoever was on the other end. She looked me up and down. You could tell she thought I was there to apologize or maybe offer them something. She stepped back and waved me in, acting like everything between us hadn't already rotted from the inside out. The house smelled the same. Too much air freshener and that awful vanilla candle she always burned down to nothing. My dad was at the kitchen table pretending to read the paper. My sister was laid out on the couch like a queen in a cheap castle. Her boyfriend had one sock on and a controller in his hand. I stood there. No one said anything, so I started. I told them I was moving, that the lease was signed, that my daughter and I were leaving in less than 24 hours. I didn't say where. They didn't ask. My sister blinked once, then went back to her phone. Her boyfriend asked, "So we're not getting the mattress then?" That was his only contribution. My dad didn't look at me. He stared at his coffee like it might solve everything if he just focused hard enough. But my mom, she smirked like she was proud of me for getting it out of my system or something. Like this was just a phase. That's when I said it. I told them I had the letter. The one they never gave me. The one my husband wrote before he died. The one they hid. I told them I read every word. That it was meant for me. That it was his last message and they stole it for 5 years. At first, no one said anything. Then my mom shook her head and said, "We were protecting you. You were already falling apart. What good would a letter do?" I told her that wasn't her decision to make. She said, "You weren't strong enough back then and you needed us and maybe we needed something too." My dad cleared his throat like maybe he was going to say something, but then he didn't. Just lowered his head. I looked straight at him, asked him if he knew. He nodded, said, I thought it would come out eventually. Eventually. That word made my stomach turn. Then I pulled out the printed emails from years ago between my mom and a man named Eric. Eric from work. I didn't even raise my voice, just handed them to my dad. My mom snatched them first. She didn't even bother denying it. Just scoffed and said that was forever ago. It didn't mean anything. We were going through a rough time. I told her I didn't care, that I didn't dig them up for revenge or drama. I found them months ago by accident on an old laptop buried in the back of the hallway closet. I saved them not to punish her, but to remind myself that I wasn't crazy, that the way she treated me wasn't about me. It never was. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but I didn't give her the chance. I turned to my dad and said, "You always let her do the damage and just sat there cleaning up the blood. I'm done pretending like that makes you innocent." He didn't argue, just stared at the papers, jaw tight. Then I turned to my sister, told her the mattress wasn't happening, that the money was done, that I wished her and her kid a better life than the one she grew up in, but she'd have to figure it out without me. Her boyfriend mumbled something about how this was all dramatic. I walked toward the door, but before I left, I turned around and said the last thing I'll ever say to any of them. I stopped hoping you'd change a long time ago. I just never thought I'd be strong enough to walk away anyway. Turns out I am. Then I left. I didn't slam the door. Didn't look back. I drove home with the windows down. The air felt lighter somehow. When I got back, Nina had finished packing the kitchen. My daughter was making a little drawing of our new house, even though she didn't know what it looked like yet. She said, "Can I hang this up when we get there?" I said, "Yes." And that was it. The end of a chapter one stayed in way too long. The beginning of everything else. We left before sunrise. No big dramatic send-off. No long drive-by of our old street. Just 3 people, a packed U-Haul, and a GPS pointing east. My daughter fell asleep again 30 minutes into the drive, curled up in the back seat with her stuffed bear and her drawing folded in her hands. Nina drove the first stretch while I just sat there and stared out the window. Somewhere past the city line, I realized I wasn't anxious, not nervous, not even sad. I was quiet, but I wasn't holding anything anymore. That was new. It took us a day and a half to reach the new place. Small town, slower pace, trees everywhere, the kind of neighborhood where people actually wave when they see you. I signed the lease and picked up the keys while Nina unpacked snacks in the driveway. Our new place was nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, some creaky floors, a porch that slanted a little to the left, but it was ours. The first night, we didn't even unpack much. We slept on mattresses on the floor surrounded by boxes. My daughter hung her drawing on the wall next to her bed with a single piece of tape. She pointed to the stick figures and said, "That's us, Y and Nina, and that's our house with a big tree and a dog. We don't have the dog yet, but it's okay." Then she smiled, turned over, and fell asleep like she'd done it 100 times before. Nina and I stayed up for a while on the porch sipping tea and not saying much. I think she could tell I wasn't ready to talk yet. Just needed to sit. Just needed to breathe. The next morning was the first time in years that I didn't wake up angry. I wasn't waiting for a text that never came. Wasn't checking to see if they finally remembered something. Wasn't budgeting for someone else's bills or worrying about being guilt-tripped into giving more. I made pancakes. My daughter helped. Nina spilled flour on the floor and didn't apologize for it. He just laughed. Was quiet in the best way. In the days that followed, we started to settle. My daughter started school and made a friend on the first day. A girl with a loud laugh and glittery shoes. Nina found a remote job. Within a week, I started taking long walks again. Something I hadn't done since before I was a mom. We got a library card. We even bought a cheap little dining table from a thrift store and painted it ourselves. Every night I waited for something. A wave of guilt, a feeling of regret, some leftover piece of me still tied to them, but it never came. They stopped trying to contact me after that last visit. No calls, no letters, just silence. And for once, silence felt like freedom. Sometimes late at night, I reread the letter from my husband. Not because I'm sad, but because I like remembering the version of me he believed in. The one who would protect our daughter. The one who wouldn't trade her peace for other people's comfort. He was right. I just didn't know it back then. I keep the letter in a wooden box now on a shelf. Not hidden, just safe. My daughter asked me once what was in it. I told her it was something from her dad, something he wanted us to have. She nodded and said, then we should never lose it. We won't. We didn't. And as for the rest of the family, the ones who used us, forgot us, lied to us, they can keep pretending I was the problem. I'm done proving otherwise. We're building something here. Fully, quietly, and for the first time in my life, I think I'm finally living. Have you ever had a moment where you realized your family was using you? Or treating you like an ATM? How did you finally decide to cut ties and reclaim your life? Share your story and what you learned in the comments below.